Hi, this is Ian. I'm a sales engineer at Gruntwork, and I'm going to show you how to use the account factory inside of DevOps Foundations. So the guide for that is actually at docs.gruntwork.io. If you go to that page, you'll see all these different pieces, and I want to look at DevOps Foundations. And inside of that, there's a section underneath the landing zone about adding a new AWS account, and you can read that later, but we're actually going to do this live right now. So the first step is from my infrastructure live, I would go to Actions. And when I receive my infrastructure live as part of DevOps Foundations, I'll have some pre-built workflows set up for me. It's worth calling out that this VPC self-service one is actually something I did by taking influence from these other workflows. It is fully in GitHub Actions, so if you've used the ECS deploy runner, it's going to be a little different. And it's actually backed by Control Tower. So one of the prerequisites is to set up Control Tower. We can see that right here. So to create an account, I will do something like this and actually run the workflow. So I already created a production 01 and a bunch of development accounts. Let's say I want to do a staging account called staging-01. So let's name my account. The email address, this is going to be the root user. So I have my own schema going right now. So this will be staging 03 because I'm in the 03 org. And then this is 01 to indicate that it's my first of many staging accounts, and then at gruntwork.io. So I'm a human giving information to GitHub Actions, like what do I want? Staging, I'm going to put that in pre-prod, US West 2 is fine. And then SSO user, that's just going to be me. Oop, I can't spell my own name. And using my regular SSO email. So this is totally fine. I'll be able to see this when I log into my SSO portal in a moment. So when I run the workflow, what's going to happen is a pull request is going to be generated for me. This doesn't actually go ahead and create the account because we do want an infrastructure as code record. Like that's a big part of infrastructure as code is auditability. So we want to have everything that we're doing at this point represented as infrastructure as code. And this will fire up a job for us. And okay, cool. It actually looks like one pretty quickly. So it's already done. And if I now go to the pull requests of this infrastructure live repo, I can see that a machine user has opened up a pull request for a human, in this case, me, to approve. And what happened? Well, if we look, it created a new branch and then filled out a YAML form, or really created a YAML file for me and stuck it inside of this _new account request directory in the root of my repo. So again, we're still in a branch. This account has not been created yet. And what's cool is I can make changes. I could maybe say, oh, you know what, I want this to be 17 because maybe 17's just come out. I can see that it was actually done by GitHub Actions. So maybe because this just uses the GitHub API, I integrate with some other tools like Jira. And then also, who is it requested by? So what is the GitHub ID that actually went ahead and made this request or authenticated to GitHub to make the request? And what's also going to happen is a plan is going to run. So I'll pause here for a moment. You can click onto this details and go see that a job is being dispatched, but I'll pause this because it'll take a second for the plan to run. So I'll see you in 1 second. Okay, so pretty quick, my plan has arrived. So it commented on my pull request and I can go see the logs for that plan by just clicking this link. And you'll notice we've actually been dropped into a different repo. That's because of this architecture. If I was to show you here, we'll go to the dedicated documentation for it. That architecture of using two different accounts is described in the public-facing docs. So if you want to learn more about why there are two different repos, the quick answer is that only this infrastructure pipelines repo authenticates to AWS. The one we've been working on this whole time doesn't have the ability to authenticate to AWS. So it's a backstop or really just a security measure. So anyways, we can flip through these logs and see, great, a file is getting replaced. That's just our YAML file. And our staging account is going to be created by Control Tower's account factory. We can see all the different pieces in here. Again, this is code, so we do have the opportunity to modify things as we would like to, but we don't have to. And I'm just going to go ahead and merge this and then pause the video again, and we'll see this account get created. But then we're going to see the interesting piece come up, which is to baseline this account and how does this happen? Because I think we all know that creating an account is fairly easy. Getting that account into governance is a little trickier bit, and we'll see that in a moment. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'll see you again soon. All right, so after a couple minutes, our job went green. when we merged that pull request. So if I refresh this page, I should see staging 01. There it is. Scared myself for a second. And I can log right in if I want to with SSO. So with one pull request, I'll close this out. That was the job running. With one pull request, which is 51, I was able to set up my SSO and get a brand new account created. So pretty cool. And I can see the logs of that account, or the logs of that account creation were actually appended as a comment to my pull request as well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this branch just for the sake of cleanliness, and cool. So this is green. I could go inspect the logs if I wanted to and see what it did, but it's not that important right now. What is important is that we have a brand new account, but we haven't baselined it yet. And this is the fun part now, because we have that same flow where a machine user opened up a pull request for a human to approve, and TerraGrunt already started planning itself. So we'll see this finish in a couple minutes. But if we look, we've now generated a bunch of code that looks like the typical infrastructure live. Previously, you would have to copy paste this code and do this by hand. Now it just happens automatically, including creating a VPC for me out of the box. And since it's code, what's pretty cool is I could come in here and say, okay, I want to make a change to this code because I'm a human and the machine user got me pretty close, but let's just pretend I'm going to edit this file. I want the CIDR block to be 222, so I can do something like this. And I'm going to commit to this branch. And cool, another plan will kick off. So I'll pause in a moment, but actually let me go back to the files change. Let's just review these really quickly because the plans will go and then we'll merge this in and it'll apply it. So what's being changed? Well, there's an accounts.yaml that represents, essentially a database of all the accounts that already exist. If I was to go to the root of my repo, I would see that accounts.yaml, and there's no staging in there yet, but there will be. But this is where I go for the records of like, what accounts do I have? We also set up the account baseline, and in this case, it's setting it up with CIS. So out of the box, this account is going to be using modules that are compliant with the AWS CIS Foundation's benchmark. So pretty cool. And again, it's code, so I have the opportunity to customize things here, including I could add another call to create an S3 bucket or create an EKS cluster right from here, and then all of that work will just be done for me. Additionally, we need to run jobs in this account. So right now, we're relying on the ability of control towers access to log into these accounts, meaning our pipeline can't access this account staging 01 using OIDC yet, but right away we'll have that set up. So we'll have GitHub OIDC just authenticating, GitHub authenticating to AWS via OIDC from that pipelines repo, and then setting up the state bucket and things like that. This is some of the joys of TerraGrunt, is nowhere have I had to think about a state bucket nor a provider, something we tend to overlook. So more stuff happening here. We made this customization. Let's go back to the pull request and take a look. And cool. So here's the plan from our first run, but again, I made that change, so it's going to run a plan again. We can probably skip that and merge it right in. But just to walk through what happened, it doesn't just create the account and baseline it in a bubble. We have many accounts that are, outside of the scope of our workloads, like the logs account where CloudTrail and AWS config data aggregates, security account where I have things like cross-account IAM roles or things like scanners. Shared, this is where I would keep things like, hey, let's go back to that example of I want to launch an EKS cluster right out of the box. Well, I don't want to have to set up ECR in that account and build the images and then push them to ECR. I just want to have a shared account that has all these images for me ready to go right off the shelf right when I create this account, really right when I baseline this account. So all of those authentication pieces happen inside this run, and we'll see that in a moment. You can see it runs in security, it runs in the login account, it runs in the shared services account, and now let's go ahead and merge this thing in. Maybe this plan's done. Okay, it's still running, but I don't care. I think we're pretty safe to merge this in, so let's do that now. Cool. So this is going to run. The same thing was going to happen where we'll see a comment for an apply, and just to show you what one looks like, I have some from earlier. Let's see what we got. Here we go. Cool. So this is an account that I incorrectly named, so I can watch us rename them. That'll be a different video. But this is what we can expect to see is that same exact template for creating a new account exists. So it was a machine user opened up a pull request. It generated a bunch of code for us. I don't think I customized anything in this code. Let's go check the VPC. Yeah, it's just using 10.0.0/0.0/16. I could rename the VPC if I wanted to, do all sorts of customizations, but I didn't. And once I merged it, all the logs for that apply were commented on the pull request for me to review in case there's any errors. I can pop right in and see what happened. So that's the account creation workflow in a nutshell. Again, it's all done as infrastructure as code. I have everything recorded in my infrastructure live repo, but additionally, it's all pull request based. So I have the opportunity to approve things, change things, disapprove things, and it happened with zero humans clicking in the console. Like I haven't even logged into the Staging 01 account yet. And I honestly probably never will, because all the work I will do will be from a GitOps workflow. So that's account creation using Gruntwork pipelines and the Gruntwork landing zone. Thank you for watching, and my email is ian@gruntwork.io if you have any questions. Have a good day.